In the midst of the gunfire, he laughed. He laughed out loud, even with the sound of drones buzzing overhead and the fear clenching his chest. His fingers still trembled on the trigger, but his eyes were fixed on his phone screen. A 14-second video, a meme, a dog filter over an exploding tank, an audio remix blending the sound of real gunfire with viral TikTok beats. In the video, 2 Ukrainian soldiers dancing next to an armored vehicle. In the field, a bloodied colleague calling for help. There, war merged with the viral. Have you ever stopped to think that today's war isn't like the ones before? That it doesn't just live in trenches, but in algorithms? That while bodies fall to the ground, videos are uploaded to the cloud? That the same drone that films an attack is used to record content with millions of views? It sounds absurd, but it's not. Soldiers on the front lines are using TikTok, creating trends, creating dance routines, posting memes, some with acidic humor, others like cries for help disguised as satire. A Ukrainian corporal posted, "If I die tomorrow, at least this video will be in someone's favorites." This isn't a joke, it's disguised desperation. And it's real. And it's not just one side. In the Russian army, soldiers share videos mocking the Ukrainian resistance, using comedy audio while filming the rubble left by attacks. In Gaza, children perform choreographed dances among ruins, because they've never known another childhood and because the camera has become a weapon of survival. In Syria, Islamic State fighters were already using dramatic soundtracks to make executions go viral. Today, the formula has only become more refined. Why does this matter? Because now war has a soundtrack, it has editing, it has filters. The soldier isn't just a combatant, he's an influencer, and the battlefield is also a timeline. What happens to humanity when a bombing becomes content, when pain becomes likes, when trauma becomes digital entertainment? The burning question is, are the soldiers playing at war, or trying to survive it in the only way possible? This is the world we live in, where a bullet pierces a chest, and at the same time, the video of that moment crosses borders, bubbles, and censorship. A meme may not save a life, but it can go viral more than a formal complaint. And perhaps this is the new logic of war. The funnier you're suffering, the more likely someone will pay attention, but who is really laughing? War has become a stage, and every soldier, cell phone in hand, is an actor, editor, screenwriter, and victim. Let's understand how we got here. In 2003, before TikTok existed, the first digital clash between trenches and screens began in the deserts of Iraq. There, an American corporal known only as Salty carried a mini DV camera taped to his vest, filming dust-filled patrols, and, at night, uploading it all to a blog powered by a military dial-up line. The video was shaky, the definition poor, but those who watched it, a handful of enthusiasts scattered across forums, felt like war had arrived in their bedrooms. It was the seed of the brutal transparency that now floods timelines, the battlefield, uncurated by generals or the crisp lens of CNN, but filtered through the anxious gaze of the combatant himself. Back then, the Pentagon tried to suppress it, citing security risks. Paradoxically, the censorship made headlines and multiplied its reach. When Salty filmed a burning armored vehicle and ironically captioned it Baghdad-style barbecue, he didn't know he was inaugurating the explosive mix of shock and humor that, 20 years later, would have soldiers pressing play in the middle of crossfire. Fast forward to 2011, in the heated networks of the Arab Spring, cell phones replaced megaphones and hashtags led human columns. In Tunis, Mohamed Bouazizi's desperate act, captured in raw pixels, spread across continents, before authorities could apologize. In Cairo, every step of an M1 Abrams over Tahrir Square was broadcast live by hundreds of young people alternating between throwing stones and tweeting slogans. As the world retweeted hashtag Jan25, terrified regimes discovered that controlling newspapers wasn't enough. They would have to shut down the entire internet, and even then, the videos resurfaced through proxies like water through cracks. The traditional press raced after homemade uploads, and the time for fact-checking shortened from hours to minutes. The mix of revolt and drama gained improvised soundtracks, French hip-hop, oud lament, sirens remixed with an electronic beat. Thus, the revolution became a music video, and each video became political ammunition capable of conquering the next. When civil war engulfed Syria in 2012, the digital landscape became even more confusing. Inexperienced rebels learned editing skills on pirated apps, adding dramatic subtitles and orchestral tracks to videos of destroyed neighborhoods. Meanwhile, state television broadcast images of children playing in flower-filled parks, just blocks from the black smoke. Two opposing realities fought for the same timeline, and the global viewer alternated between indignation and skepticism, lost in a sea of contradictory clippings. NGOs tried to verify authenticity frame by frame, but the avalanche was faster than any expert. A famous video showed a boy running through bullets to rescue his sister. Months later, evidence of staging emerged, but the correction didn't garner half the clicks. There, the lesson was cemented. In digital warfare, emotion goes viral first. The truth, at best, limps behind, too late to stop the wave. And, meanwhile, algorithms rewarded each new tear captured, converting suffering into banners, conversions, profits. In 2014, the Islamic State upped the ante. Its media operators, many with graphic design degrees from Europe, combined drones, DSLR cameras, and professional software to produce videos worthy of a Hollywood trailer. The beheading of a British hostage was filmed at sunset, with slow motion and a dramatic fade-out. It shocked governments but captivated teenagers seeking epic storytelling. The group understood the attention cycle better than many marketing departments. Open with shock, build suspense, close with a call to action disguised as jihad. Many executions were accompanied by memes satirizing Western presidents in internet language emoji GIFs, and inside jokes creating a disturbing contrast between medieval cruelty and vlog aesthetics. With each removal by platforms, copies appeared on VPNs, pastebins, and torrents. It was terrorism as a startup, iterative, scalable, and obsessed with metrics. And success proved that where there are cell phones and Wi-Fi, there is a stage for horror. While extremist organizations refined their content, platforms refined their profits. The infinite feed became the largest attention market ever built, and war became a captive supplier. A leaked internal Facebook study admitted that highly emotionally arousing content, anger, fear, nervous laughter keeps users scrolling 26% longer. Soon, explosions competed with viral dance routines, and thanks to recommendation systems, a click on stuck Russian tanks led, within 4 videos, 2 conspiracy theories or humorous compilations of stumbling soldiers. Big tech advertises robust moderation policies, but every minute of delay is worth millions in impressions. Advertising doesn't ask where the traffic came from, it just pays. In this ethical financial vacuum, military influencers emerged. Soldiers unboxing weapons, rifle maintenance classes sponsored by energy drinks, nighttime live streams in trenches answering chat questions as if they were FPS gameplay. 2 decades. Summarized in pixels, from Salty's artisanal blog to 4K lenses that capture tears and likes in real time. Looking at this timeline, we realize that each technological advancement has reduced the distance between trauma and entertainment until it's almost zero. Now, watching a bomb fall requires the same gesture as watching a cat jump into a box. Today's soldiers grew up with 10-second stories. For them, narrating the front through an augmented reality filter is as natural as breathing. But when memes override mourning, who anchors collective memory? If truth must compete with the puppy dog filter, who will save the sanity of those who pull the trigger? In the next section, we'll unravel how this torn present impacts bodies, bread prices, and the very idea of the future, because war, likes or not, still kills just the same, and perhaps the feed is killing us along with it. And when the last video is deleted by the terms of service, all that will remain is the uncomfortable silence of those who, at home, have become dependent on the adrenaline provided by each red notification, as if they also needed that small dose of chaos to feel alive. At the front, silence is rarely silence. It's the breathless drones, the long cracks of artillery, and, suddenly, the vibration of a cell phone in a vest pocket. On July 26, 2025, as Russia and Ukraine exchanged 208 drones and 27 missiles in a single night, 4 people died and dozens were injured. Minutes later, images of flames and sirens were circulating on TikTok, edited with frenetic soundtracks and short phrases to hold attention. War has become a continuous flow: launch, film, climb, share, comment. The viewer, far from the front, sees the clip first and only later, if desired, the news. The soldier, too close to the front, sees the clip and must decide whether to return fire or chat. What is a safe choice when every screen tap can betray a position? And when the enemy is watching, too. Want a stark example of how a wrong touch costs lives? When radios failed, Russian troops resorted to cell phones connected to the Ukrainian network. Triangulation, interception, artillery. There were also geotagged posts, family photos, and bravado videos that revealed coordinates, routes, habits. This isn't fiction, it's a measurable digital trail, the kind of synth analysts use to assemble targets in minutes. What if the soldier turns off the GPS? The usage pattern, the antenna, the echo of a repost are enough. Remember the Strava heat map that revealed secret bases and patrol routes that became a mandatory operational security class, and yet, similar cases resurfaced years later. Modernity promises connection. On the battlefield, connection also means exposure. Now look at the other side of the screen. The algorithm. Platforms reward what provokes anger, shock, nervous laughter. This isn't suspicion, it's documentation. Engagement generates reach generates money, and angry content receives a bigger boost than a simple like. The result? Creators, politicians, and yes, soldiers and propagandists learn to package war in formats that maximize clicks, quick cuts, close-ups, acidic punchlines, recognizable soundtracks, while Russia pressures TikTok to change its display of military content and suppress inconvenient recordings. The feed rearranges everything according to metrics, not ethics. Who wins? Truth or the most inflamed emotion? In daily practice, emotion comes first and stays. Memes aren't just jokes, they're ammunition. NAFO, a troop of cartoon dogs, began as a prank on pro-Kremlin trolls and evolved into a movement that raises millions for equipment, drones, and trucks. It's mimetic warfare, demoralizing the adversary, bolstering the ally, and contaminating public discourse. What seems like a joke opens wallets, pressures governments, and sets journalists' agendas. And the ricochet effect is real. On the other side, patriotic influencers fabricate responses, parody the dead, and distort defeats into epic victories. Who measures the psychological damage accumulated when a mother's grief becomes a sticker? Who calculates the strategic impact when a meme appends an entire diplomatic narrative? In the digital age, satire is logistics, and logistics decides war. There's another poison running rampant, disinformation dressed as breaking news. Old photos resurface as if they were yesterday. Outbreaks of other conflicts are circulated as today's attack, and investigations launched by volunteers are stifled when governments limit the reach of disturbing videos. The public sees, shares, becomes outraged, and moves money, votes, sanctions, fact checks hours later no longer repair the damage. Meanwhile, traditional media outlets also post cuts on TikTok, and the war enters the vertical entertainment drawer. Those on the front lines know, half the battle is maintaining morale, half is maintaining the narrative. Mistakes in any block cost territory and memory, and the impact doesn't stop in the trenches. The war shakes the price of bread, fuel, freight, and maritime insurance. When tanks crossed borders in 2022, Brent crude hit $140, wheat jumped more than 50% in weeks, and fertilizer prices soared, pushing inflation to tables far from Donbass. In 2025, we still see sanctions packages trying to shut off revenue taps, price caps on Russian oil, and markets that fluctuate with every escalation in Eastern Europe, the Persian Gulf, and any strait that concentrates ships. Behind the graphs are faces: 6.8 to 6.9 million Ukrainian refugees outside the country, 3.6 to 3.7 million internally displaced people, children crossing borders with backpacks and cell phones in hand. The feed shows the flash, the grocery store line feels the bill. There's also the invisible wound. Watching violence non-stop makes you sick. Studies link repeated exposure to graphic images to symptoms of acute stress and PTSD, even in those far from the battlefield. Content moderators develop severe trauma. Drone operators return home with echoes of big screens in their heads. Ordinary civilians fall into the cycle of doom scrolling. The worse they feel, the more they seek out news that worsens their feelings. And what about the soldier who produces, edits, and consumes all this between one shot and the next? Who measures this abyss? The meme may seem light, but the psychic toll weighs heavily. Laughing to keep from crying works, until the body starts crying on its own. The next shots may not come from human fingers, they will come from cheap drones, guided by AI kits that recognize targets, correct course amidst blockades, and attack in swarms, without asking the operator's permission. Ukraine has just received 33,000 autonomous guidance modules to transform commercial drones into precision weapons. In the East, commanders describe a sky full of killer robots and admit, today, drones kill more than artillery. If machines decide faster than diplomats, who can stop the error that turns into escalation? And when both sides automate the hunt, where does the truce lie? In the battery, in the server, in the algorithm? The battlefield is also an invisible control panel that pushes emotions upward and facts downward. Platforms have already admitted to rewarding emotional reactions, anger, wow, sad with greater weight than likes, favoring provocative and inflammatory posts. In wars, this is digital nitroglycerin. The European Union tightened its grip under the Digital Services Act, charging TikTok, Meta, YouTube, and X for floods of fake images and glorified violence during the Israel-Hamas conflict. If the algorithm amplifies what hurts most, tomorrow will be a feed in perpetual combustion who diffuses this bomb when every share generates revenue. Another fine line: operational security. Cell phones save and condemn. Tower signals reveal positions, a geotagged photo, a video for family, a story at the wrong time. An artillery responds. Manuals already record. Both sides intercept calls, triangulate devices, track patterns. This isn't theorist Rava's heat map has exposed secret routes and bases around the world and forced protocol changes. The modern soldier must fight in digital silence. The problem is that silence doesn't lead to engagement, and without engagement, your own version dies before the body who chooses to survive or to be heard. Memes will become increasingly politically powerful ammunition. NAFO began as a Shiba Inu dog joke, but it has raised funds for vehicles, drones, and equipment, earned public figure stamps, and become a counter-propaganda tool. On the Russian side, networks are exploiting loopholes to maintain pro-war content. On TikTok, despite internal blocks and fake news laws, the result, the battle for narratives funds real logistics, moves public opinion, and puts pressure on foreign ministers. Tomorrow, whoever masters acidic humor will dominate donations. Then whoever masters donations will push the front line a kilometer further. Laughter could become a strategic vector, and that's frightening. There's also the risk of spill. On July 28, 2025, nighttime attacks involving hundreds of drones and missiles hit Ukrainian cities, injuring civilians and prompting Polish fighter jets to protect airspace. 2 days earlier, 4 people were killed in cross-border airstrikes. On the same July 28, the White House shortened the deadline, speaking of 10 or 12 days for progress toward peace, threatening secondary sanctions. With this pressure and tense borders from Estonia to the Baltic, from Lithuania to Belarus, a single misdirected drone is enough to test collective defense commitments. Who's to say the next flash won't hit a NATO ally in the mind? The enemy has already learned to fabricate surrendered leaders on video. In March 2022, a deepfake of Zelensky calling for capitulation was injected into hacked TV and social media, a rehearsal for what could become routine: fake orders, mass panic, AI-driven riots. Studies show that repeated exposure to traumatic images worsens symptoms of stress and PTSD even in those far from the front. Add in the fatigue of watching and the urge to post, and the cognitive battlefield begins to crumble from within. If the next offensive is mental, where will we place the trenches? I've seen men pull the trigger with their right hand and hold their cell phones with their left, as if they needed 2 weapons, one for the enemy, the other for oblivion. I've seen mothers learn to edit videos to seek donations, and teenagers transform ruins into choreography because life insists on continuing even when the ceiling has fallen in. Today, war also calls for screenwriters, curators of pain, workers of engagement, and us. We scroll, we watch, we comment, we sleep worse. If the timeline decides what deserves mourning, who decides what deserves to stop? One meme soothes another, numbs a third, turns massacre into a catchy soundtrack. How many times have you laughed before realizing someone was screaming out of frame? And when you did, what did you do besides swipe to the next flash? I was there, hearing gunshots, and yet the urge to post hit first. Posting feels like control, like breathing, like help. Sometimes it saves. Other times it only muffles the cry for water and silence. Now, perhaps the question isn't why do they record, but what do we do with what we receive? Sharing is participating. Clicking is funding. Commenting is choosing a side, even when we swear neutrality. Each view is an invisible vote. Each second watched pushes something into the physical world, a truck with supplies, a batch of drones, a rumor that turns into panic. Do you really want to reward content that makes you tremble and, at the same time, prevents you from thinking? Who profits when you lose sleep? I've seen entire campaigns change because of a 15-second cut. I've seen cities turn off their lights after a rumor. If the timeline is a public square, then every gesture is public. If it's a minefield, every step pays a price, and you're stepping on it. The next piece may move you, but it also trains your reflexes to accept the absurd. As routine, before hitting repost, ask, who wins, who loses, who disappears when the joke ends? Sometimes, courage is not posting, or posting context, and building bridges. There are no easy answers, and anyone who promises simplicity is selling ruin. Governments need to act faster than opportunists. Platforms reduce the premium on hate. Newsrooms regain the patience to check. Schools teach information hygiene like someone teaching how to stop a wound. This requires concrete steps, delaying the of violent content, limiting chained recommendations, flagging manipulations, opening moderation data. And there is an intimate step, slowing down, breathing, counting to 3. The algorithm knows our impulses. We need to know too. In conflict zones, protocols should prohibit geotags, guide tactical cell phone blackouts, and train us to communicate without exposing ourselves. But the line isn't just military. It runs through your living room. Talk about war with your children as you would talk about fire. Dangerous, fascinating, unpredictable. Feeling adrenaline, acknowledging it. Feeling like laughing, ask if it protects anyone. Noticed a mistake, correct it respectfully. Don't know, wait, it is. It's also true that hope exists, even if it doesn't make noise. I've seen volunteers debunk lies in minutes. I've seen communities turn memes into ambulances. I've seen soldiers put down their phones to hold the hand of a trembling comrade. Between cynicism and care lies a narrow gap, and it is there that humanity survives. What if the same energy that makes a humiliation go viral amplified a ceasefire? What if the aesthetics that glamorizes explosions exalted those who rebuild roofs? A feed can grind empathy. It can also coordinate solidarity. When a joke hurts, change it into a bridge. When anger boils, transform it into demanding public policies. Donations, pressure for humanitarian corridors. When doubt arises, check, compare, accept a change of mind. Perhaps the gesture that saves is not a brilliant post, but a useful silence, a former call to those who represent you. It's less glamorous than going viral, but it moves the real world. And each discrete step opens a guiding passage. When I close my eyes, I hear 2 sounds. The drones drone and the notifications ping. Both demand a response. Both compete for the same reflection. The first kills those nearby. The second intoxicates those far away. If we accept that tomorrow will be shaped by algorithms, we need to program into them an ethics we are still learning to practice. Until then, let's practice a simple, almost revolutionary gesture. Before posting, care. Before laughing, understand. Before judging, listen. Before liking, breathe. War isn't content, but it will continue to appear in your feed. You may not choose the first image of the day, but you choose what it becomes later. You choose whether the algorithm learns you want blood or solutions. You choose whether your timeline serves revenge or life. And sometimes the right thing to do is close the app and visit the neighbor who cries in silence. Donate time, learn first aid, vote with memory. But this is how the future changes. Small, repeated choices are worth more than a single act. So I leave you with a wound and a choice. The wound, knowing that every like can push someone one step closer to the abyss. The choice, deciding whether your next gesture will light or extinguish. You can scroll and forget. You can scroll and donate. You can scroll and demand that political representatives protect civilians, punish liars, and hold platforms accountable. In the end, a simple, brutal question remains. When war knocks on your door, even if it's over the price of bread, will you want a music video, or a way out? Choose now, while the shots are still circling. Choose while there's still time to exchange a habit for care. Choose because the algorithm learns quickly. If the future will also be a feed, may it serve life. If war insists on getting into our pockets, may it find pockets prepared to support those who fall and to stop those who profit from their falls. And if you feel small in the face of it all, remember, every avalanche begins with grains. Today your grain is the next gesture.